Today is day 3 of you learning how to produce music. Hi, I'm Sides. Producing music has changed my life and my career, and I'm going to help you do the same. On day 1, I showed you why you should learn how to produce. Day 2, I showed you how to navigate your DAW. And day 3, I'm going to show you how to lay down the drums. For this entire series, we're going to do the 8-bar loop strategy. You're going to build an 8-bar loop, and I'm going to show you how you can turn that into a full song. So let's jump into Logic Pro, and I'm going to show you how to lay down the drums for your 8-bar loop. So the cool thing about Logic is there are lots of ways that you can lay down the drums. Something that Logic has to offer that I'm not sure if other DAWs have is the Logic Drummer. To access that, you can right-click here and select New Drummer Track, and this will pop up. You can pick the drummer over here, so you can do rock, alternative, songwriter, R&B, electronic, hip-hop, percussion, and then each of these genres will have specific types of drummers here. So you can have Kyle for pop rock, which would sound like this, or you can use Rose for modern R&B, which would sound like this. Or you can do Isabella for Latin percussion. Once you pick your genre and your drummer of choice, you can customize it even more over here. So you can select different patterns here. Once you find a pattern you like, you can customize it even more with this axis. So you can move this dot to make it simple and loud, or simple and soft, soft complex, complex loud, or anywhere in between. Let's mess around with it for a little. You can even change up the kit pieces over here. Let's say I want to use the toms. Now I turn the toms on. You can change up the tom patterns by using this slider. And same with the kick and snare. You can add percussions like the shaker, the clap, the tambourine. And one thing I really love is this follow button. So let's say I had a bass track here. I can actually program the drummer to follow the bass. You can add fills here by moving this dial. And it's going to add the fills at the beginning and the end of the phrase. Check it out. Logic Drummer is super intuitive, so it's going to even put it in the middle of the phrase. Listen to the drum groove. If that's too intense, you can just pull it back. You can even have the drummer swing to make it more of a human sound, or you can click the details, you can push and pull the feel, you can add ghost notes, and you could adjust the hi-hats to make them all close or all open. If you like the way the Logic Drummer sounds, you can totally use that in your track, but I'm going to show you a few other ways that you can build up your drum grooves. Another way you can build up the drums is by using the Drum Machine Designer. I love the Drum Machine Designer, and I feel like most DAWs have something very similar to this. To access the Drum Machine Designer in Logic Pro, we're going to right-click in this area, and we're going to create a new software instrument. Now we're going to go down to where it says Instrument, and select Drum Machine Designer. Here it is. It's basically going to give you an empty kit. You can fill up these boxes if you like. You don't have to fill up all of them. The main ones you want to fill up are the kick, snare, close hat, and open hat. Logic has a bunch of sounds that you can put in. So all you have to do is click on the box and it's going to literally pull up a bunch of snare sounds, a bunch of hi-hat sounds. So let's start with the kick. Let's just listen to a few. Another cool thing with the Drum Machine Designer is that if you have samples already that you've bought from a third party or you've created your own, you can just drag them right in. For instance, I have the snare sample, and I can just drag that right into the snare spot. Let's quickly add a hat. And I'm going to add this open hat. Okay, so now I have my kit on the Drum Machine Designer, which you can play by just clicking these. Or you can play with your MIDI keyboard. Or you can press Command K, and you can use your typing keyboard, so you can just use your keypad to play out the notes. You just have to make sure you're on the right octave. So you can see over here, it's on E1 and it's on C1. And then I can see my octave here is on C1. But if I move this down, now it's on C-1. We want to get it up to C1. Another cool thing you can do is you can double click on the name so you can rename things to keep it organized. And then you can label your kit, let's say Cool Kit 1. Click on User Patches, click on Save. Now you can just click Save. And now when you create a new software instrument track, go over to User Patches, go to Cool Kit 1. There you have it. You have your own personal kit ready to be used. Okay, so once you pull up your Drum Machine Designer, like I said, you can either play it in or you can press P to open up the piano roll. Then click on Step Sequencer, and now you can use the Step Sequencer to program in the drums. Right now we have this set to 16th notes, which is over here. So this would count out 1 E and A, 2 E and A, 3 E and A, 4 E and A, which is just one bar. If you want to change the steps, you can add 64 steps, which is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 2 bars, so it's be 4 bars that you can use. Don't get overwhelmed with this. We're just going to stick with 16 steps. Now I want to talk about some typical patterns that you can use. So in general pop music, a great place to start is to put the kick on beats 1 and 3, the snare on beats 2 and 4, the close hi-hats on every other 16th note, except for the last one to have an open hat. Let's listen to this. Now you can mess around adding some more kicks. So you can put a kick on the first beat of every bar, which will be a 4 on the floor sound. You can mess around moving around the snare. So let's put the snare on just beat 3 and maybe 1 here. Or you can keep the snare on beats 2 and 4 and you can move around the kick. Have fun with this and experiment, and always trust your ear. I have also created a free digital download for you to check out of typical drum patterns. Something cool about Logic is that it has stock patterns that you can access. All you have to do is click on this button, go over to Patterns, go over to Drums, and you can check out some of these patterns. If you ever want to undo something you did, you can always press Command-Z to undo. One last thing I want to show you about the step sequencer that is really cool is if you click this drop down and select repeat, you can actually create a stutter sound. So let me just create a stutter sound here and maybe here, and you can just hear what it sounds like. Once you're happy with your drums in the step sequencer, I recommend converting this to MIDI and to put the drums onto different tracks because that will help you later on with your arrangement and with mixing. So to do so, we're going to X out of the piano roll, and then you're going to command click on here or right click on here and select convert to MIDI region. Now it's converted to the MIDI regions. Now you're going to right click one more time and do separate by note pitch. Now it put each of the drum parts into its own track. You can even flatten this stack by right-clicking again and do flatten stack. The next way that you can add in drums is you can experiment with dragging in loops. I'm just going to delete all of this for now. To do so, I recommend checking out the Apple Loops library. Something cool about this is that you have different types of loops available to you. You have audio loops, you have MIDI loops, which are ones that you can change. You have pattern loops, which are the step sequencers that we used. And you have drummer loops, which is the drummer loops I showed you. You can experiment with all of these. When you are using loops to build up your drum kits, I recommend finding a loop for each part of your drum kit. Just to overview, the main parts of the drum are the kick, snare, open hats, and close hats. You can then add other cymbals if you like, percussion, which would include tambourine, shaker, maybe a cowbell, depending on your track. You can also add toms, but I recommend when you're first starting out to find a loop for each of those sections. So for instance, I'm going to search in the loop kick. Now I can go through and decide if I want an audio kick or a MIDI kick. It really doesn't matter. Let's go with this one. So I'm just going to drag this right in, and it will automatically put it in the right BPM for my track. Now let's find a snare. Cool. I'm just going to drag that in. Now let's find hats. A lot of times, open and close hats will be on the same track, and that's okay. Okay, maybe now let's find a tambourine. Okay. If you want to quickly repeat in Logic, all you have to do is highlight it and press Command R, Command R, Command R, and it will repeat the section for you. The last way I want to show you that you can add your drums in is by actually drawing them in. So let's click on our Drum Machine Designer track, and let's press P to open up the piano roll. You can see the drum names right on the piano roll here. So let's say I want to put a kick on. I have my draw tool on my second button, so I just hold down Command to draw, and I'm going to put the kick right here, move it over. Snare on beat 2. Open hat here. You can easily just move it around if you want to just drag it down, and then open hat here. All right, let's hear how this sounds. Solo, U to loop. And there's one more way I want to show you how you can record in the groove, which is by literally playing it out on your MIDI keyboard or your keypad, which I showed you how to play it out earlier. All you would have to do is press R to record, and you can play it in. As you can see, I am not very good at finger drumming, so that would not be my first choice. Your task for today is to lay down the drums for your 8-bar loop. Have fun and trust your ear. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel because on day 4, I'm going to show you how to lay down the chords. See you then!